Prime Minister Modi, speaking to Ukraine's president in Japan, had said India will do whatever it can to bring a resolution to the war. Now, this is in line with previous Indian statements regarding the need to end the war, and another reminder that India opposes the war, even though we've taken a muted position so far. But ahead of the Prime Minister's state visit to Washington next month, the US says the war in Ukraine will certainly be one of the topics that is under discussion. This has triggered speculation that New Delhi could possibly play the role of peacemaker in Russia's invasion in Ukraine. Listen in to what US State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller had to say.
As far as Ukraine is concerned, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi, he met several leaders at the G7 meetings, including President Biden and also, of course, President Zelensky and other leaders. You think when he arrives in Washington next month, because he has spoken in the past about the war between Russia and Ukraine, that India could be, or Narendra Modi, Prime Minister Narendra Modi could be the one who can break the ice or mediator. You think he can play a role when he comes to Washington after meeting, when he meets with the Prime Minister, President Biden, and of course the Secretary of State and other leaders?
So I would say, without giving too much of a preview of that trip, which we will do as the state visit gets closer, certainly the war in Ukraine will be one of the topics that is under discussion. It's been one of the topics that's been under discussion in previous meetings with Prime Minister Modi, as it is in just about any conversation we have with a world leader at this time, or has been the case for the past year.
Right, to further discuss this, Michael Kugelman, the South Asia Institute Director from the Wilson Center, joins us live. Thank you, Michael, for your time. Michael, what's your take? Can India play the role of a mediator in this ongoing war? And is Putin likely to listen to his friend Modi?
Well, I think that India is certainly a strong candidate. There are not many of them, but it certainly is a strong candidate to be a mediator. It has, of course, good relations with Ukraine and a very special partnership with Russia. And few other countries have such a long, special relationship with Russia. India has a track record of managing or balancing tough relationships, tough rivalries like the Saudis and the Iranians, and of course the US and Russia. And I would argue that India does have some leverage over Russia because India continues to be a key buyer of arms and energy from Russia. And indeed, the Prime Minister has suggested at least once that Putin and Zelensky have a direct conversation. But I do think what you say is significant in that in order for this to be successful, both sides would obviously have to be willing to subject themselves to a mediation. And I just don't know if Putin at this point in time would be ready to talk about de-escalating and ending the war. You'd have to think that Putin's few friends, one of those friends is the president of China. And one would think that the Chinese president has also sought to get Putin to de-escalate. It hasn't happened. We've seen that Russia is not willing to do that yet. And that may give India pause, quite frankly, before it's willing to make an offer of mediation. If it thinks it's not going to be successful, maybe it would feel better to hold off until the conditions are better to make that big attempt. But absolutely, I do think India should be seen as a very strong candidate to be a mediator to end this terrible war.
Right. Thank you so much, Michael, for joining us with that quick comment.